matter what life brings my way. Well, I made my way back to the place that I was raised. As a child I remember spending many a day standing on a rock, catching tomcods and flatties, surrounded by beauty as I look around the bay.
Hello, my name is Peter Elliott, and I'm taking you on a trip around the bay. On our journey, we will be visiting 4 lighthouses, 3 on the Irish Loop and 1 down on the Cape Shore. But that's not all. We will explore hidden treasures along the way. Maybe we'll see some wildlife, seabirds, and spectacular scenery. Hopefully, we'll encounter nice weather. Let's start our journey at Bay Bulls. Bay Bulls first appears on a map in 1592. The exact origin of the name is a mystery, but some claim that it comes from the common dovekie bullbird, which can be found in the area. Fortification of Bay Bulls Harbor came in 1638 by Governor David Kirke. Not long after, Bay Bulls was raided by Dutch sailors. The village was attacked 4 times by the French. During the Avalon Peninsula campaign in 1696, the English ship HMS Sapphire was cornered in Bay Bulls Harbor by a French squadron. Her master, Captain Thomas Cleasby, in fear that the French would capture the ship, scuttled her and escaped across land to the colony of Fairyland. The Sapphire is now an underwater archaeological site. In 1762, the French landed 700 men who occupied Bay Bulls and marched into St. John's. Bay Bulls suffered its last invasion in 1796 when the French Admiral Richelieu attempted to storm St. John's without success, so he attacked and burned Bay Bulls instead. So cannons and warfare play a large role in Bay Bulls' turbulent history. The gate in front of the Catholic Church is made of cannons left over from the battles with the French. Later, statues of the saints were added on top, which gave us the famous canonized saints of Bay Bulls. Bay Bulls Harbor played an important role as a maintenance dock for Canadian warships during World War II. When the Nazis surrendered on May 8, 1945, the U-boat 190 was escorted into the harbor by the Canadian frigate HMCS Victoriaville on the 14th of May. A few minutes down the highway to the south is Witless Bay, another very old town in North American standards. One of the original European inhabitants of the area was Captain Whittle, who had brought his family from Dorset, England to Newfoundland. The area was named Witless Bay. When Captain Whittle died, his widow and her children returned to England. Witless Bay eventually became Witless Bay. Overlooking Witless Bay Harbor, an old cemetery bears witness to the early settlers of the community. A Celtic cross facing out to sea is a lasting testament to the influence of Irish settlement on what had been known as the English shore. From as early as the 16th century, the southern shore was frequented by migratory fishermen from the Iberian Peninsula, France, and England. Settlement increased during the 18th century when Irish fishing servants began to overwinter in the fishing stations along this stretch of coast. From the cemetery, there is an unobstructed view of the waters of Witless Bay Harbor and some of the islands that comprise the Witless Bay Ecological Reserve. The reserve contains North America's largest Atlantic puffin colony. More than 260,000 pairs of Atlantic puffins nest there during their late spring and summer. Up the hill behind the town, there's a trail with a rarely known treasure hidden along it.
Right now we're walking an old railway line here in Witless Bay, and this railway ran for 15 years, 1915 to about 1932, and it was the Trepassey branch of the Newfoundland Railroad. And old steam engines used to run here pulling trains. In the latter years, a steam car, and that had carried fish, baggage, mail, passengers, and of course coal to keep it running. We just came down the trail, a little bit of a eroded section here. This is the highest railway bridge on the Trepassey line. And of course it's still standing, as you can see, rather dangerous. I wouldn't walk across it. But that's the old bridge. It's like somebody painted graffiti in there. If you listen, you can hear the train whistles of the bygone era.
We'll head down the highway to Taurus Cove, but we'll pass through Mobile fast, as I don't want to encounter a talking goat. Next stop, Taurus Cove with its breathtaking coastal scenery. Taurus Cove is a tiny community, one of those scenic places that appears frequently in Newfoundland and Labrador's tourism commercials.
Okay, I'm going to take you to one of my favorite spots there in Taurus Cove. A secret little road goes down to bring you to the Cribby. This is the old red Cribby. Don't know how old it is. Little red house. It's in all the Newfoundland historic brochures and commercials for tourism and all that.
Taurus Cove is one of those places where mischievous little people, sometimes called fairies, frequent. Always carry a piece of bread in your pockets, or wear your clothes inside out, or carry some silver coins, because you'll never know when you'll come upon a fairy, or one may come upon you.
So come take my hand, let me show you a place where people live free. Through stories and songs, our history lives on, passed down from our fathers through good times and bad. This island that I know is home keeps calling me back.
A half-hour drive down the Irish Loop Highway, you will come upon Fairyland, one of the most historic communities in North America. It was the birthplace of religious tolerance and freedom of worship in the New World. Here, between the steep hill and the sea, stands Holy Trinity Church. When the church was consecrated in September of 1865, it marked the last of 5 stone churches built under Roman Catholic Bishop John Thomas Mulock. Today, Holy Trinity Church is the last stone church standing from this time. Fairyland has one of the most impressive archaeological digs in Canada. Established in 1621 by Sir George Calvert, the first Lord Baltimore, the colony of Avalon is widely recognized as the best preserved early English colonial site on the continent. Here, archaeologists have unearthed a portion of Calvert's mansion, the remains of a bakery, brewhouse, a cobblestone street, warehouse, forge, well, seawall, and a sea-flushed privy, and close to 2 million artifacts. The town was destroyed by the French in 1696, virtually forgotten for centuries. Excavations of the original settlement began in earnest in the late 1980s and continue to this day. The day is getting on, so we should head out to see the lighthouse on Fairyland Head. Maybe we will get to meet the lighthouse keeper.
Headed from the pool, from the main community of Fairyland, out onto the Fairyland Head towards the lighthouse. And keep on going till we can see the lighthouse. Now we came to the end of the road. And you see it's very narrow on the side, so I'm glad we're not driving this. You see the surf down here. course, the narrow spit of land that we're on. So there's the other side. And there's Ile de Bois. The island of wood, Ile de Bois. There's no wood on it. It's all barren. If you look closely, you can see the sheep way out on there grazing. And the island is full of rusted old cannons. Kind of barren up there. And on our way to Lighthouse of here, Fairyland. And I know it's really windy, but if you can hear me, but here's the Stakes Point Pass Battery. And we're coming into a little forested section. So I have a feeling that we'll see the lighthouse shortly. If you look, you can see it at the end of the road.
Located roughly midway between Cape Spear and Cape Race, Fairyland Head was an ideal location for a lighthouse, being itself an obstacle for mariners. Construction on the lighthouse was carried out during 1870 and 1871. Over the years, the brick construction of the tower deteriorated. An iron casting was finally applied to the tower in 1892 and has served to protect the structure ever since. And Fairyland Light was electrified in 1931.
Here we are at the base of the light tower. And see, we'll go right up, take a look. It's all cased in iron years ago. We'll see if we can go inside. There's the door. And let's go see. Oh, there's a lock. Hello, Mr. Lighthouse Keeper. Are you there? It's all locked up. I guess we'll just have to look at the view and settle with that.
Off in the distance, I can see the legendary Butterpot Hill, where the masterless men once lived. Irish youngsters who lived on this hill in the mid-18th century. I must get back to my car before dark. Also, I feel like I'm being watched. Are there little fellas here? I better run. And down the road, Renews is another historic fishing community. Somewhere hidden on the tiny mount near the coast are ancient rock inscriptions that appear to be medieval Latin and could date somewhere around 500 AD. If so, the author could well be St. Brendan the Navigator, the Irish saint, while on his stepping stone tour of North America. In the community of Kappa Hayden stands a memorial to the passengers and crew who lost their lives in the wreck of the SS Florizel. The Florizel was bound for Halifax from St. John's in February 1918. The seas were rough, and it was early in the morning when Captain Martin reckoned that he had rounded Cape Race, ordered the final course change, and crashed full speed into the rocks at Horn Head. Of the 138 passengers and crew, 44 had survived the initial crash, and 27 hours after the ship had struck ground, the last of the survivors were rescued.
Now we're in the Barrens. This is beautiful here. Turn here for Cape Race.
I arrive at Portugal Cove South, a small fishing town on the southern shore. Its name is derived from its origins as a Portuguese fishing station first settled in the 16th century. The Mistaken Point Ecological Reserve is a UNESCO World Heritage Site with its collection of some of the oldest known fossils on Earth. The Interpretation Center here is the starting point for guided tours.
We'll keep on our journey here on our way to Cape Race. This is beautiful. Absolutely stunning. The light is beautiful. It looks like someone's cabin. And we're going straight down. It's like a roller coaster.
stopped to say hello to a local we found walking down the road.
We're getting closer to the Cape Race Lighthouse. The road's gotten a little rougher. Very barren here. Very bumpy.
Cape Race has been a world-famous landmark for 5 centuries, appearing on maps made by European explorers as early as 1502. Before the days of wireless navigational aids and GPS, when mariners sailing from Europe saw Cape Race, they knew they had made it across the Atlantic and were finally able to verify their positions for the first time in weeks, or sometimes even months. The name Cape Race comes from the Portuguese Cabo Rezo, which means Bare Cape. Cape Race also has a tragic history of shipwrecks. Thick fog, ice, hidden rocks, and strong currents all contribute to the hazard. Between 1866 and 1904, 94 ships were lost at or near Cape Race, with a total loss of over 2,000 lives. The first lighthouse was built at Cape Race in 1856, and the present light station went into operation in 1907. The lighthouse was originally lit by petroleum vapor lamps and had a clockwork mechanism that worked like the weights in a giant grandfather clock. The lightkeepers had to wind it up every 3 hours between sunset and sunrise. Cape Race once had a small but thriving community, as it took quite a few people to run the telegraph, radio, and direction-finding stations, and to maintain the lighthouse and fog alarm.
This is the old foghorn shack. Let's go see if the lighthouse keeper's in, and maybe we can pay him a visit, have a tour. And let's see, here's the door. A little windy out here, tell you. And there's the door right there. Okay, let's go check it out. Hello? Anybody in? Well, let's just look at the site. Pretty barren out here.
In 1912, the Cape Race Marconi station became famous overnight. After receiving a long string of boring messages, the Cape Race operator was amazed to hear the Titanic sending CQD, CQD, their Marconi company code for a distress call. He ran to fetch his senior officer, who took over and relayed the news to other ships and land locations looking for rescuers. Only one ship, the Carpathian, made it in time to save 705 passengers. Over 1,500 died because there weren't enough lifeboats and the water was so cold. Cape Race is the closest point of land to the Titanic grave site and is home to the Merrick Wireless Interpretation Center, where visitors can closely connect with the region's wireless and Titanic heritage. West of Cape Race is the small town of Trepassey, the former terminal for the Trepassey Railway branch line. Like Cape Race, Trepassey also became world famous overnight when Amelia Earhart became the first woman to fly across the Atlantic. The team left Trepassey Harbor in a Fokker F-7 on June 17, 1928, and arrived at Bury Port, Wales, a distance of more than 3,200 kilometers, in 20 hours and 49 minutes. From the old battery, there's a good view of the harbor where the aircraft took off.
This is Trepassey Bay, and this is where Amelia Earhart took off on a transatlantic journey way back years ago. It's a long bay protected from winds, enough for the plane to get airborne.
Time to head out to our third lighthouse. This will involve a journey along a rough gravel road to the southernmost point in Newfoundland.
Okay, we're coming up to Cape Pine Lighthouse now. This is near St. Shots. This lighthouse was built
because people mistaken Cape Pine for Cape Race, so there's a lot of shipwrecks. Cape Pine appeared on early Portuguese charts as Cabo da Pena, which translates to Cape of Punishment or Sorrow. This name proved prophetic as numerous shipwrecks occurred in the vicinity through the centuries. When the HMS Harpooner struck a nearby reef in 1816, a Newfoundland dog swam from the ship to shore with a line, which resulted in the saving of many lives. In May 1847, the British Parliament granted £2,000 towards the construction of a cast iron lighthouse at Cape Pine. Extra funds were sourced to install a fog alarm, since during the summer months there was often not more than one day in a week free from fog. Work on the lighthouse was carried out during 1849 and 1850. The fog is now rolling in even thicker, thus activating the foghorn. Okay, we're going to try and go inside. Maybe we can climb it. There's the door. And, well, we'll see if we can be, we're lucky today. Oh, looks like it's unlocked. Okay. Nope. Oh well. There seems to be no answer. For over a century, 3 generations of the Hewitt family would look after Cape Pine Light. The older Hewitt children would walk over the barrens to the tiny fishing village of St. Shots and board with families there to attend school during the week. The Hewitts kept 3 cows, 12 sheep, 20 hens, cultivated their own hay, and gathered bake apples and cranberries off the land. And just up the road lies the lonely grave of Sarah Hewitt, who died of diphtheria in 1898 at the age of 21. Little foggy. St. Shots is a small fishing community with a population of 66. Seems to be fogged in. Not too much to see today. Well, let's head on to our 4th and final lighthouse at Cape St. Mary's. I hear that place is for the birds.
I'm heading back to the town that I grew up in. Just a few more miles and I'll be rolling down memory lane. And up ahead I see the road we used to follow back in our high school days. Yeah, we'd all climb aboard Jerry's old red Chevy, me and the guys in an old 6-string guitar. We'd drive out on that old dusty highway to a place we loved so well. I'm talking about down by the old train station. We'd race our cars along the railroad tracks. We'd sing our songs till early in the morning. Yeah, it's all coming back to me. Yeah.
After a long drive through the forest and barrens, we arrive at the scenic fishing village of Branch with its population of 230 people. With an authentic Irish dialect, Branch is known for its refreshingly genuine charm and tapestry of history. And ferries are known to frequent these flats just east of town. We keep on heading west now to our final lighthouse at Cape St. Mary's. The fog is thick today. I can barely see the lighthouse. but I can hear the foghorn. Construction of the St. Mary's Lighthouse began in 1858. However, the fog and heavy seas created several delays in landing the materials. After repeated attempts the following spring, the lighting apparatus was finally landed at the Cape and installed by August in 1860, and a month later the light was lit for the first time. The iron light tower had to be repaired several times due to years of pounding by storms, rain, and high winds, and during the mid-1950s the iron tower rusted beyond repair and was encased in reinforced concrete, which gave the tower its current octagonal shape.
We're going to go and just visit the lighthouse, okay? All right. See if the lighthouse keeper's in. Hello? I guess he's busy running the foghorn.
I know it's foggy, but let's head out on the 1.4 kilometer trail to Bird Rock.
You can hear the birds.
Cape St. Mary's is surrounded by what were once the richest fishing grounds in the world. The abundance of fish just offshore led to the establishment of a gannet rookery on Bird Rock. It's too foggy to see the birds, but here's what we would see on a good day. Bird Rock is a perfect place to end our trip around the bay. It's time to head home now. Better keep our eyes out for moose on the highway. I hope you enjoyed our journey. We visited 4 lighthouses. We didn't meet any lighthouse keepers, but we did see a fox, canonized saints, pretty scenery, and beautiful fishing towns. It's a lot of birds and a waterfalls. And we didn't encounter any of those little fellas. So, stay safe, and God willing, let's do this again another day.
So come take my hand, let me show you a place where people live free. Through stories and songs, our history lives on, passed down from our fathers through good times and bad. This island that I know is home.